everything I did not realize was shaping me into a more grateful person, I did not learn from a YouTube video 8 years ago. I am in no way a master of gratitude. I still have my days and I'm working on it. But I can say that it comes far more natural to me now than it did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 8 years ago. I want you to be able to have that same experience. What are the subtle habits, things that I've exposed myself to that I can now attribute to my more grateful disposition? That is what I'm going to be sharing with you ladies today. So I think sometimes we just want this fast track solution to a question like how to be more grateful. I can speak from experience and say that all of these things help to build up to me being more grateful, but it's not something that could just happen overnight. So let's get right into it. Also, side note, I'm still navigating the whole new haircut thingamabobber. This is the middle part. What do y'all think versus like a little side action? We'll see. I'm probably gonna be playing with it, but the first thing I did not realize was contributing to me becoming more grateful was all the hardships that I went through. I use hardship as a general term, but really by that I just mean situations that objectively weren't exactly the most fun. They definitely pushed me, they challenged me, maybe they were really difficult in numerous ways. God was actually using these circumstances to develop a more grateful disposition. It's so easy to look at the hard times as things we just want to rush through, get over with, get to the other side, but I've absolutely learned that it was actually in those hardships when I turned to God and I persevered through those times that I learned so much, and I especially learned to be grateful for actually not only the times that are really easy, but also for the difficult times. I don't know about you, but the greatest growth that has happened in my life has followed from a hardship. The moments that stand out most in my life are the times that would be objectively not fun. But these are actually the moments in my life personally that I am the most grateful for because I grew the most from these experiences. So the second thing that I had no clue was really going to contribute to me being a way more grateful person was learning about feminine energy. So when I first started to really come back to my faith, started diving into why am I a Catholic anyways? What is this all about? Another side endeavor that was going on was me learning about feminine energy because I knew I wanted to change the way I was living. I knew I wanted to grow into a better version of me. While I was learning about my faith, I was also learning about feminine energy and how it relates to Catholicism and femininity and Catholic femininity versus worldly femininity. So it was learning about feminine energy and how it could impact my life in numerous areas, and also just learning about biblical womanhood and what it means to actually be a woman and embrace who God made me. It was during this time, it was learning about all of this when I had no clue how much it was going to affect me years down the road. But now I can say, looking back on my life, that after learning about feminine energy and femininity, it was really helping me to grow into this much more positive, grateful person. Because a lot of what feminine energy and femininity is all about is learning about human dynamics, relationships with other people, our relationships with God, and our relationships with ourselves, and how we can rest in who we are, really surrender to the process, surrender to life that the Lord has blessed us with, and learning how to be a more soft and gentle person while also pursuing goals and dreams. I could go into more depth into femininity and feminine energy. I also made some videos back in the day that I should probably update, but I do think a lot of the content is still relevant if you wanted to check those out when this video is done. But I had no clue that learning about this would actually help me develop a much more grateful attitude because it's so rooted in trusting and surrendering to God, navigating relationship dynamics. When we're just a more grateful person, more positive person, we are going to see much more success in our relationships, also in any of the endeavors that we take on. But I did not know that at the time, but I can absolutely see it many years down the road. The third thing I had no clue was actually really shaping me into a more positive person was journaling, and specifically gratitude journaling. Sorry, I keep saying more positive person. I mean to say more grateful person, but they're very much connected. I can absolutely pinpoint my consistent gratitude and prayer journaling to me being a much more grateful person now. It's pretty self-explanatory. Gratitude journaling is intentionally writing down the things that you are grateful for. So this just naturally kind of seeped into my way of existing. I would really like to hone in specifically in this video on prayer journaling, when you sit down and you journal out different prayers that you have on your heart, different things that you're asking the Lord for. And prayer is not just asking for things, it's also expressing gratitude and thanksgiving and just pouring out your heart to the Lord. So when I started this sort of prayer journaling, I was able to then read back some of these prayers of mine down the road, and I was able to see how God had worked in my life over time after expressing those prayers to Him. In this way, I was sort of documenting my life, documenting the struggles, the prayers that I had, and being able to look back, reread all of that, and then be able to reflect on how my life has changed since then. It really helped put my life into perspective about the way that God weaves through all elements of my life, and He has taken into account all of my prayers and has answered them in His own unique, beautiful way that is going to be the best fit for me, because He knows me better than I do. When I first started doing this, I was just hopeful, obviously, that the gratitude journaling would help me, which I actually have kind of put aside and have focused more now on the prayer journaling, because it has allowed me to really express more thanksgiving and gratitude to God for all the prayers that He has answered and all the ways He has shown up in my life. So naturally now, when I am prayer journaling, I am able to really focus on my gratitude, specifically to God and what He has done for me and for other people in my life too. The fourth thing I had no clue was actually going to have such a crazy impact on me being a more grateful person was allowing myself to be exposed to wise, grateful, holy people. And I mean this specifically in a lot of the content that I was consuming: books, YouTube content creators, Instagram content creators, also people in my life like family members and friends as well. As the old saying goes, right, we are what we eat. We are also what we consume through our eyes and our ears. So if you are listening also to music that is really negative, you're probably going to start thinking in those patterns that the music is speaking of. And the same goes for the movies that we're watching, the TV shows that we're watching. Are they more inspirational? Are they focused more on gratitude and just good things in life? Or are they focused on sin, the more negative aspects of life, right? That's really going to determine the way that we see the world. So for me, there was a huge life-changing shift. Again, this came after college when I started to dive back into my faith, and I started to watch new YouTubers, and I started to read books by authors who were holy, inspiring, positive people who were talking about things that made me reflect on my life and made me feel grateful for what God has done for me. Finding friends who also shared this disposition towards life, who were just very positive, upbeat, really focused on gratitude. It has helped me to see the world in a similar light. When I noticed how good I felt when I was consuming that kind of content and spending time with those kinds of people, it really helped to motivate me to not cut out in a negative way, but really try to curate my influences. So I really stopped listening to a lot of secular music, though there is still some that I do listen to. I could go into that in another video. Some secular music is so beautiful and like it doesn't even know that it is. But this ties right into the fifth thing that I had no clue was really going to have such an impact on me, but it makes sense now, which is knowing how it feels to operate from a place of lack and from a place of ingratitude. This helped me tremendously to naturally kind of fall into a more grateful disposition. When you know how it feels to be a person who focuses on the negative, who doesn't think about the good in their life, when you know how it feels to operate that way, then you really start to understand the power of being a grateful person and practicing gratitude, because let's just be honest, it's not fun. It absolutely stinks to live in a mindset where everything isn't good enough. Life is just bland and blah and there's nothing good. It is going to just make you feel super icky. And again, when you experience the flip side of that and you start practicing gratitude and you start realizing the impact it's having on your life, on your relationships, you just can't go back. And when you do start to fall back into those habits and those patterns of kind of negative thinking or not focusing on the good things God has blessed you with, it just kind of makes you go, wait a second, I know what's going on here and I have the power to change that. And all you want to do is go back to being the grateful version of you. And the sixth thing I had no clue was going to have such an impact on me being a grateful person, which I can really see it now, is frequenting the sacraments. Again, all of this stuff seems to have really happened when I came back to my faith, but it makes sense. When I started to come back to the faith, I really dove into the sacraments. I wanted to learn all about them again. Why do we do these things? It just struck me how beautiful the Catholic Church is. It's just a beautiful faith. It leaves me speechless. Anyways, I started to frequent the sacraments far more. So I started going to Mass a lot more and receiving Jesus in the Eucharist, as well as facing my fears and going to confession again. Now I absolutely, obviously love confession and love all the sacraments. Back then when I was coming back to my faith, of course I was a little bit nervous, but what started happening is once I started frequenting the sacraments, it was like this natural wave of gratitude was just instilled within me. Thanks, Holy Spirit. When you start to experience for yourself the mercy of God and you ask God to make you a more grateful person, and with that, you start going to confession, you frequent Mass, then beautiful things start happening. Let me tell you that. I speak hardcore again from experience. And that's why I'm sharing this with you guys, because honestly, I had no idea that enhancing my sacramental life, my spiritual life, was going to have such an incredible impact on my disposition towards life. That trickles out to everything, that trickles out to relationship, to work and school. There's one thing that I would love to send home is that if you are trying to be a more grateful person, start by frequenting the sacraments and asking God to help you with becoming a more grateful person. Because if you just start there, like fast track to that, then all these other things will just naturally happen the way that they're supposed to happen. That is what I can say about my own personal life. If it weren't for returning to my faith and relearning the beauty of the sacraments and really making that a part of my life, then I don't think that any of these other subliminal situations and contexts and things in my life would have had the kind of impact that they did on me becoming more grateful, generally speaking. My friends, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had an incredible Thanksgiving, and of course, riding on the wave of Thanksgiving and gratitude, I hope that this video inspired you to not necessarily rush into, okay, I need to be grateful tomorrow. It is a slow process of becoming that person, and God is going to help you on that journey if you ask Him for the help and you allow Him to take you on that road perfectly in His time. You will have ups and downs in your life. You will be exposed to different people, different influences. You will have so many things happen in your life, but as long as you keep your focus on your sacramental and spiritual life, then you're probably going to wind up at a place like I did, where you're like, huh, I had no clue. I did not realize that any of these things over the past few years were going to have such an incredible impact on my disposition towards the world, me being more grateful. So hang in there, trust that God is going to lead you to that place. Perhaps try some of these things that I spoke about, because again, I didn't watch a video multiple years ago that told me that all these things would help me. If I had seen that video, then I would have kick-started into doing all of these things back then. But again, I'm so grateful that the Lord has brought me to this place and continues to lead me to an even more grateful disposition over time as more things happen in my life that I have no clue are shaping me as we speak, and I will down the road. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. And don't forget, you are so crazily and unbelievably loved by the Creator Himself. Alrighty friends, have a good one. Bye!